Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things could get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a lady by the name of Sharron Shayne. Sharron played the choir nun in the 1985 teen cult classic Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And she was also a secretary in Joel Reed's Bloodbath. We just lost Joel recently. I was supposed to interview him earlier this year, but unfortunately it never happened. And I'm having her on the show today to talk about all of that. And also going to talk about her art. She has art that she does, and I believe she has a gallery out in Los Angeles, and we're going to talk about all of that stuff. Man, so many actors I interview turn to art, you know? I mean, it's like they're artistic doing the movies, but then after, roles start drying up, they start turning to actual art of painting pictures and making sculptures and what have you. I find that to be very interesting. So, here is my interview with Sharron Shayne.
Hi, is this Tommy?
Yes, it is. How are you today, Sharron?
I'm really good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Welcome to the show, and this is such a great honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, you're so kind. Yes, I'm happy to do it.
Oh, awesome. So,
every chance I get to talk about myself. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
So,
gorgeous day today.
Oh, yes, it's a very gorgeous day. We have a little bit of wind right now over here, but it's pretty gorgeous.
Oh, over here? Where is over here?
Redding, California.
Oh, I know. But I meant, what neighborhood are you?
Neighborhood?
Yeah. Are you like Glendale, Pasadena?
No. Redding is up north in California.
Oh, okay. Oh, Redding. Oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh, it's okay. So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward acting early on in your childhood?
Well, that's kind of an interesting thing because my grandmother, whom I just adored, and I lived with them part of the time when I was a young child. My grandmother used to take me to the Yiddish theater when I was a child. Mm-hmm. And we had a very theatrical household. And my mother was the oldest of 5 girls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And my grandparents emigrated from Russia, Poland. And my grandfather's family had a tavern there that was frequented by Ida Kaminska's Polish Theater. So it was kind of a very theatrical family. And my nickname when I was a child was Sarah Heartburn.
That's good.
Instead of Sarah Heartburn, because I guess I was given to a lot of dramatics. But when my grandmother would take me to the Yiddish theater, some of it I could understand, some of it I couldn't, but all I knew was that they were so theatrical and they so carried on that I think that, yes, I really did want to do that when I was a child. But I was born on the Lower East Side of New York, and it was a wonderful, wonderful neighborhood in those days. Now it's become so gentrified. The apartments that we lived in that were $60 a month are now going for $6,000 a month or something like that. You just didn't do that, It was like a little girl from the Lower East Side, a little Jewish girl from the Lower East Side. You didn't do that. But I was always kind of very artistic. I was always drawing, and I had a gift for drawing, so I knew I wanted to do something in the arts. But it wasn't until I was in college that I actually started to study at night.
Mm-hmm.
while I was going to college during the day for something else entirely. I was studying nursing and being a medical assistant, and totally different field. But I started to study acting at night because I had a boyfriend who became an actor, and he kind of encouraged me to do that. So
nice.
I gave up the medical profession and started to pursue acting at a very young age, like teen.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from the Lower East Side of New York.
What nice.
Lancey Street, Essex Street, a very colorful, wonderful neighborhood. So it was a very interesting kind of background.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure when you start studying acting, it was in New York.
And I was fortunate because I didn't know where to go, who to study with, but there was a wonderful magazine that's no longer in existence called Theater Arts, and they would advertise. And I found 2 teachers that taught for Stella Adler. And they were teaching a class at night. And so I took a class with them. Their names are Norma Hayes and Jetta Wolf.
Yeah.
Jetta Wolf was a wonderful, wonderful actress. Unfortunately, she had a bad end while I was studying with her, and it was so devastating to me that I had to give up acting for a while. She was in a play at the Bleecker Street Theater downtown in New York, and it was a play called Exiles by James Joyce. And she got rave reviews, and she was married to a stage manager, and she committed suicide.
Oh, my God.
And I was just a teenager, and it was so devastating to me that my mother, who did not want me to be an actress, and I owed money for my tuition. She said, "I'll lend you the money if you promise to give it up." So I did. So I gave it up for a couple of years, but the draw was too strong. And I worked for doctors at the time.
Oh, God.
I couldn't stay away from it, so I had to go back. So I went back to it.
Oh, that is tragic, though. Very tragic.
Yeah, it was really tragic. Nobody knew why, or what, because she was in this hit show. But anyway, through studying, the way that I got my first job was really, really interesting. I happened to be able to get into a class, a wonderful, wonderful class that was taught by Harold Clurman. And it was for actors and directors. It was more of a director's class because the directors were assigned scenes, and they used the actors in the class to act in those scenes. But Harold Clurman, you had to go through a whole process of interviewing and everything, and I had just been studying, and I found out about this class. It started at 11 o'clock at night. It was mainly for Broadway actors that were in shows. So they would come to this class that was held in Carnegie Hall after they got off stage. And I was very lucky. I was accepted into this class. And Harold Clurman just had a wonderful gift of being able to cast immediately for something that you were right for. He could just tell what your essence was. And the first thing that he gave me was a play that's out of print now by Frank Molnar, an Hungarian playwright, called The Glass Slipper. And so I did that for him. I don't remember who directed it, but I was this class at Rue McClanahan. Do you remember her from
the Golden Girls? Yeah.
The Golden Girls was in this class. Roy Scheider was in this class. Tony Lobianco was in this class.
Wow.
And an actor, I don't know if he's around anymore, named Ben Hammer.
Ben Hammer. I don't know.
He would be quite old now if he's still alive. And he sort of befriended me and took me under his wing. Mm-hmm. And then I did, in that class also, I did Hilda in The Master Builder by Ibsen. So people got to know my work. And so I was recommended to Herman Shumlin, who was a big theatrical producer and had a terrible reputation for being really hard and nasty with actors.
Yeah.
He was casting a play called The Deputy by Ralph Haku that had a great deal of success in Europe. In Europe, it was played in many countries in Europe, and I think it started out as being 8 hours long, and it was reduced to 6 and then to 4. When it finally got to New York, I did. It was about 3 hours long, or 3.5 hours long. And there was a lot of controversy about it because it was about Pope Pius XII.
Oh.
Yeah, and why he did not speak out against Hitler.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, I was recommended to go and see Herman Shumlin. And I did, and now I was very young. I was like a teenager, and I looked much, much younger. And I went up to see him, and he said, well, but we're double casting this part, and you're just way too young. So I went home, and I always studied. I mean, I've made the rounds through every single theater practically. And I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher who's no longer with us, named John Len, Lehne.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of him?
I've heard of him, yeah. I don't think I've talked to anybody who studied with him.
Teacher.
Yeah.
And I worked with him on this particular scene in which I had to be very emotional and do what we call in actor studio jargon, a shock emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow I managed to get an appointment to go back, and I borrowed my grandmother's house dress, and I turned it around backwards so that it had no shape, no dots or anything in the front, so that I would have no shape.
Yeah.
And I wore very little makeup, but lipstick and like a lot of rouge, because older people sometimes put on a lot of makeup to try to make themselves look younger. Mm-hmm. And I put my hair up in a bun, and I borrowed my grandmother's glasses. So I could barely see my hand right in front of my face because these glasses were so thick. And I managed to be able to get up to go to his office again. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting in the office, and people in the office, they were like looking at each other and kind of like laughing. And when I went in to see him, I sat at his desk for, I think, a good 3 minutes, a long time. He did not know who I was. And then he said to me, he came up, and this man, who was so stern, had such a reputation for being so nasty and disliked actors, came around and put his arms around me and said, it's so wonderful to see a real actress, and come back tomorrow to the theater, not for this part that you have your suffering soul into, but for the other part, the younger part. So I did, and I gave a great audition, and I got it. But what's amazing about it, it was my first audition in my life, ever.
Yeah.
It was on a Broadway stage, and it was so thrilling to me. It was like no feeling in the world, just thrilling to be standing on a Broadway stage. It was like a miracle, a dream come true. And when they called me later, if you wanted. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it was life-changing.
So that was my entree into my first audition and my first job doing the Broadway play.
Did you do a lot of Broadway theater during that time?
No, I didn't. I did a lot of off-Broadway. A lot of off-Broadway. I remember I went from that to, at that time they had Equity Library Theater. It's not in existence anymore, but it was run by Actors Equity, and they did some wonderful plays. And what did I do? I did a German play. Not the Ghost Sonata. Can't remember what it is right now. And then I went on I did To the Young, Gifted, and Black, which was a very big hit. And I think Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, they were one of the producers. And I sort of wrangled myself into that audition. Also, I had an African-American roommate at the time, a very beautiful model, and she was trying to be an actress, and she had gotten an audition for To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. And she said, "Oh, they're seeing people tomorrow. Why don't you just go and show up?" So I did. The stage manager said, I don't know how you got here because we're only seeing black actresses today. I said, "Well, I don't know. I got, this message to come in." So that was another way that I wrangled myself in. And they let me audition. And so I got into To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. That was done at the Cherry Lane Theater. Gene Frankel directed it. It was, Lorraine Hansberry's compilation of different scenes from all of her plays. And then I was a member of Circle Repertory Theater. That was very big in those days. I did the Ghost Sonata there, and Strindberg play, and I worked at Playwrights Horizons, and I worked at New Dramatists. I did a play called The Elizabethans at Sidney Michaels, who wrote Dylan.
Yeah.
Wrote. And that was about Shakespeare and his relationship with the Dark Lady of the Sonnets.
Wow.
So that was really interesting. I did Birdbath, which is a Leonard Melfi play at the Manhattan Theater Club. Oh, now I remember the name of the one I did at Equity Library Theater. It was called The Trial. And eventually it became a movie.
The Trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know there's the Paul Newman movie, The Verdict, and then there's so many other court movies I can't even keep track.
Yeah. And I was a member of a repertory theater that's no longer in existence there called Counterpoint Repertory. And I did a lot of things there. I did No Exit. I did Spoon River Anthology.
Wow. So how did you meet Jewel Reed and get cast in Bloodbath?
I was taking an acting class with Warren Robertson. He was very big in New York. This is like during the late 70s, and he had a lot of stars and a lot of models in his class. And someone saw me in that class, and they recommended me to Joel. So I auditioned, and it was only, it was in that movie, there were a lot of different scenes. There were different stories. Mm-hmm. And I was in one of them. And it wasn't a very big, but they liked me so much that they gave me, major billing. So that was nice. And I liked, Joel, he was kind of very laconic, but very sweet, and worked with Doris Roberts, and Harv Presnell was in it, and yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was supposed to interview Joel back in February. I had been procrastinating it for a long time because he was older, and I started interviewing older people, and I was like, oh, what the heck? So I reached out to him, and he gave me his number. I called him. He told me he was getting out of the hospital on a Thursday, and he said, let's do it Friday. So I waited over an hour, and I never heard from him. And he went straight to voicemail every time I called him. And then I just said, all right. And then a month went by, and then he posted on Facebook that he was still in the hospital. And then a couple weeks after that, he announced he had COVID, and then died shortly after that, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so sad. Yeah. He was really a nice guy. They had some screenings of his films someplace in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Several years ago. And I went, and he was so wonderful. He was so happy to see me. He gave me an autographed poster of that very famous movie that he did, Blood-Sucking Freaks.
Yeah. One of the earliest Troma films, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's known to be like it's one of the iconic classic cult films of that type.
Yeah. I have a colleague who interviewed him, and I listened to that interview, and I was just laughing out loud. I mean, he had no filter, that guy.
Yeah, right.
I heard that they have a documentary either coming out about his life or it's out now, where they talk about how he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because he had no filter. I mean, I'm listening to this interview, and he's like, he's saying all these different things and using all these metaphors, and it's just so hilarious, saying, what do you want me to do, jack off on a corpse, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good time working with him,
Yeah. Was he a lot of laughs?
He was a lot of laughs. He was very easy, and someplace in Midtown, New York, but it was just like a studio, and they turned it into a wonderful set. Mm-hmm. Like moving chairs, but it was like a very small, blank space. But it worked. He was very industrious and very creative that way.
Mm-hmm. Did you get to interact with Harvey Presnell?
Yeah, he was very nice. And there was another guy who also has passed away. Can't remember his name. Older Seymour, not Seymour Cassell. But I worked with Doris Roberts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Doris Roberts, she's a very talented lady.
Very talented. And
Jack Somack.
Yes, that's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Jack Somack. He was sweet. We had fun. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's also one of the earliest Cannon films, too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, did you move to L.A. after that?
Well, the funny thing is that I did a play that was called The Sailors.
Mm-hmm.
And it was done at the Theater of Riverside Church, which is an actually gorgeous church on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, right near Columbia University.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all about Pentecostal people. And I had a great part. I played a woman who was like
Yeah.
who had an affair with the head preacher of the church. And finally, I had to leave the town. And I had a baby from that liaison.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like 6 years later, and I've come back into the town because my child is dying, and I want Jesus to heal her. And now I'm having an affair with his son. That preacher died, now his son has taken over. So anyway, it was a great, great part. Very, very, very emotional, and had to do a lot of singing, Pentecostal songs, and we went to a lot of Pentecostal churches and learned how to chant and how to throw down on the floor and speak in tongues. And anyway, it was a great time. And I got reviews like, my grandmother would have written them. It was just really wonderful. Do you remember a wonderful actress named Beerster Strait?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she came all the time because her son, Gary, was in it.
Mm-hmm.
He played the young preacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she brought her agent, who was a very wonderful woman, and a top agent, and they signed me from that show. But it didn't last too long because very shortly thereafter, this agent gave up the business.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was wonderful getting to know Dee and her son. And anyway, I went off on the tangent. What was the question that you asked me?
About moving to LA.
Oh yes. Okay. So this was directed by a great guy named Scott Reiniger, and we became friendly.
Oh, yeah, from Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And he moved to LA, and he wanted to do the play out here.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted me to come out and do it. So I did. So I came out here, and we rehearsed, and I did. So that was how I got to come out here. But I just have to segue a little bit because I was on my way to go to live in Paris. This is true. And
Yeah.
I had a list of really, really influential directors and producers, and Bertrand Tavernier and Audrey Louche and Simone Signoret's producer, Moshe Mizrahi, and I had a lot of wonderful introductions to all these people.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Brook. There was a wonderful set designer named Wolfgang Roth, who was a good friend of mine, who gave me an introduction to Peter Druck. I kind of had a dream to go into his company, and also he's dead now, but Jean-Louis Barrault. And I had been studying French for 8 years at the L'Alliance Française in New York, and it was just my dream to go and try to work in France.
Yeah.
But somehow, when Scott asked me to come out here, and I had a good friend at the time who's now passed away, Susan Oxbach.
Who?
Susan Oxbach.
Huh. Okay.
Oh, you must know her because she did a lot of wonderful work and had a lot of notoriety. She wanted me to stay with her. She thought it was kind of self-destructive to go and live and think I could work in another country where it wasn't my first language. But I've always been very kind of, I don't know, either daring or just, I don't know, naive. And I was going, but when I came out here, I stepped off the plane, fell in love with the palm trees, and I started to get some attention to work, so I didn't go to Paris to live. That was a long time ago. a lot of those people aren't even with us.
Yeah.
But I can always go, can always go.
Yeah.
That's how I came out here.
Wow.
I had an apartment in Manhattan Plaza that I tried to hold on to for a few years, but, you weren't allowed to sublet, and I finally just felt, it was wrong just to try to hold on to it. I was going back and forth for a few years, and that didn't become too feasible. So we gave up the apartment. Wonderful apartment. You're aware of the apartments in Manhattan Plaza, right?
I've heard about them. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I've always wanted to interview Scott Reiniger.
Oh, you did?
I've always wanted to. Yeah, I haven't gotten to though.
Well, I have been meaning to try to get in touch with him for a long time, so maybe this will give me an incentive, and I will tell him if you want me to.
Sure, that'd be one.
I think he's teaching at the American Academy.
Yeah, I think I messaged him on LinkedIn about a year ago or so, and I don't think I ever heard back from him. Who knows if he saw it though? But yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You played another secretary in the TV movie of the week, Seduced.
Yeah, I barely remember it. It's a small part.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Yeah.
How does that come to you?
I had an agent who submitted me.
Mm-hmm.
At the part. Yeah. So there was no, great big story around that. But it was great to work with them. What did I play in that? I played a...
You play a nun in the choir.
A nun, yes. I remember I auditioned with an Irish accent.
Yeah.
And worked with two people who became very big stars, Helen Hunt.
And Sarah Jessica Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's like reading a magazine, and then she starts singing Deo, and you just get pissed.
Yeah. Right.
Hilarious, yeah. I have to say, you made a very pretty nun.
Oh, well, thank you.
Of course, yeah. You had the perfect face for it. I'm sure if you had played an Amish lady too, you could have pulled that off.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I used to see this movie all the time on HBO when I was a kid back in the late 80s, early 90s. It was always on. We just lost the director, Alan Metter.
I know. I was so sad to see that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what's going on, it's just so, oh, dear.
Do you remember much?
One of the heartbreaks is Terrence McNally.
Yeah.
Such a talent, such a big talent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you remember anything about Alan Metter, though?
I remember he was very cordial. He was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get into it too much with me because it was very straightforward.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And it really...
was Sarah Jessica...
I've done a lot more theater than I have film and television.
It seems like it. I see all these gaps on your IMDb. It seems like you love theater's your first love of the two.
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah.
That's a layover from, the Yiddish theater that I was brought up on.
Yeah.
So I'm a member of the Actors Studio,
mm-hmm.
which I'm really happy about that.
Of course.
I auditioned many times, and I was never turned down. I was always told to come back in a different scene or come back with a different partner. Or the funny thing about the Actors Studio, you think, people like Al Pacino and Salome Jens and all these wonderful actors, mm-hmm. They would want you to do anything at all. But no, something that has your essence,
Yeah.
something that you would be typically cast for. And once I auditioned in New York with a scene from Leroy Jones's play called The Dutchman.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful actors did it many years ago. That Shirley Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful, beautiful actress. But it was a part of a crazy woman who murders this young black kid on the subway.
Mm-hmm.
So the auditioners called me up at home and said, "We really wanted you in, but we were afraid that you were really crazy."
Yeah.
Like, well, then, I said, well, it's a big compliment to my talent. So, and then I did a split scene, and they said, "Oh no, that was too character-y for you. You're too pretty for that." So I finally chose a scene from a Philip Roth novel.
Mm-hmm.
Called Letting Go, and that got me in.
Yeah.
And Geraldine Page auditioned about 12 times, so I felt I was in good company.
Did you know
James?
Oh, sorry.
Called Throwback at the Manhattan Theater Club, and Geraldine Page's agent came and see me there,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually came to see the guy that I was playing opposite of, but he liked me and signed me, so I had some good representation back in New York. But out here, I'm also a member of Rogue Machine Theater, and I'm a member of Pacific Resident Theater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a member of Theater 40.
Theater 40?
Yeah. So...
Did you know James Lipton at all?
No.
Oh, yeah, he's the dean of the Actors Studio, and he did the show.
Yeah. He was based in New York.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You played a supervisor in Modern Girls. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
It was a small part. It was okay. I find that sometimes it's more difficult to do a small part than a long part, because you have to sort of just come in and do it.
Day player, yeah.
And make an impression and get on. You
Yeah.
You can't really grasp some of the stars, but all of these small parts, they lend something to the whole.
Yeah. So how did your interest in art begin?
Well, that's kind of interesting, because as much as I wanted to be an actor, I also had a great desire to paint or draw. As a child, I was always, I spent a great deal of time alone as a child. And I was always drawing, but it was easier for me to hide behind someone else's words and someone else's story than to put myself, to do your art. It's really, it's you. It's your thoughts, your sensibilities, how you respond to the world. And I never sort of had the courage until later on in life. I was married to a film director named Lawrence Simeone.
Mm-hmm.
And he passed away, unfortunately, in 2002, tender age of 48. But he was extremely encouraging. And it was while I was married to him that I just started to take classes. And I started really slowly with taking like night classes at they had like an extension class at Beverly Hills High School.
Yeah.
And so I took a drawing class there, and we worked in different mediums, and pencil and charcoal and pastel mainly, and had a wonderful, wonderful teacher. And I just heard that I signed up for classes at Santa Monica City College.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to take drawing and then eventually painting. And I signed up for a sculpture class, thinking that it was sculpture with clay in the body, but it wasn't. It was working with stone and marble, alabaster. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I just loved it so much that when Larry passed away in 2002, it kind of kept me going because I just forced myself to show up,
Right.
show up. And I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher named Linda Lopez who said, you don't have to do anything, just sit there, just breathe and sit there, because I couldn't breathe. It was such a shock, you know.
Yeah.
Larry had polio when he was a child. He was a March of Dimes poster boy, and so he had post-polio syndrome. And he had a valve in his heart that had to be replaced, and he never came out of the anesthesia. He had surgery. But, so I continued going to school at Santa Monica City College, and I got into an extraordinary art mentor program there that you had to apply for, and you had to show your portfolio, and you had to write essays, and it was very easy to get into it because it was like getting a $50,000, graduate degree for free. So that was a year. And my teacher said to me, if you do this, you can't do any acting for a year. I said, okay. But I managed to do a little acting there.
Yeah.
I could never give up my passion. And my grades kept going up and up and up, and I got like a 4.0 average, and so I was able to get full scholarships to a wonderful college, Otis College of Art and Design, and it's like a $250,000 a year school, and I got in, and all scholarships. And so I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts from that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I still continue somehow to do theater.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I could, some, film or TV. I did Death of a Salesman at Pacific Resident Theater with Richard Dempsey.
Mm-hmm.
Richard.
Oh, yeah, he was on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've worked together many times. He always jokes, saying, I've married to you more times than I have to my wife.
That's good.
Yeah. And then Richard and I did Daytona at Rogue Machine Theater a couple of years ago, directed by Elena DeSantos, and that was a very big hit. Also, George Weiner was in it.
Oh, yeah, George Weiner's a great actor.
Yeah, and a sweetheart. It was the three of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an American premiere. But unfortunately, because of everything that was going on with the theater at that time, there was and they were moving from their space, and another show was coming in. Even though we were Critics' Choice and got rave reviews, it wasn't able to run that long, which was a heartbreak because we had such a great time doing it. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Wow. So do you have a gallery?
Pardon me?
Do you have a gallery?
Yeah. Oh, I should tell you. I just had 3 art pieces selected to be in art shows. And if you like, I could send you pictures of them.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I've talked to a lot of actors who paint or create sculptures. I guess it relieves stress, from not being able to get acting roles. It seems like it's a pattern, and I admire anyone who can do anything, create anything with their hands. That's a talent I wish I had.
All you have to do is try, Tommy.
I have. I did when I was a kid. Throughout my childhood, I was always painting, and I was a terrible painter and a terrible drawer,
Well, maybe you'd be better, I don't know, with sculpture. And there's all kinds of sculpture. There's glass, there's stone, there's metal, there's fabric, there's, paper.
Yeah.
All kinds of. You're obviously a creative guy.
Oh, thank you.
You just have to take classes.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, well, I'll tell you, one painting that I'm an oil painter,
mm-hmm.
but I don't want to paint with oils anymore because I paint, my studio is in my apartment,
mm-hmm.
and it's extremely toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a little dog, and it would not be healthy for her either.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to train myself to paint with acrylics, which I kind of hate. But the first thing that I did was just an exercise, and it came out really nicely. So I submitted it to a show, and it got in. And then I recently submitted it to this benefit auction. I'm with a gallery called Gallery 25, Los Angeles Art Association. A wonderful, wonderful organization for emerging artists. And this is a big benefit. So if it sells, I won't get any money, but it's for a good cause, and I'm really happy to do it. And there's a lot of very prestigious artists in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stone carving and alabaster called Heartbroken. And then just yesterday, I got notified that a portrait of myself,
mm-hmm.
In response to COVID, got accepted into another show. So really happy about that, and encouraged to, just keep going, because it's keeping my sanity. Since this happened, I've done a couple of things on Zoom for theater, and that's been nice. But
yeah, it's insane.
yeah.
It's really insane. Do you have any upcoming projects you could mention? Did anything get shelved because of COVID?
Trying to think. No, there may be some things having to do with Theater 40. I just got the notice yesterday that they're going to have some stuff that I think I'm right for, that I'll submit myself for. But people are always calling me to do a reading or to do... I did have some things that were shelved having to do with the Actors Studio.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very wonderful place, but can't do it now.
Yeah. Well...
One thing I did do for Zoom for the Actors Studio was a wonderful playwright from New York, and one actress from New York, and one actress from here, and then the director and the playwright were out here. So that was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Great part. And cross country. Yeah.
Well, I hope after all this is all over, you can get back to work. But in the meantime, I'm glad that you've got your art at least.
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, I'm not a writer, though I've written poetry, but I know that a lot of people are trying to do some projects for themselves, but that would be kind of spreading myself very thin to try to write and paint and draw and sculpt, So, but,
well, Sharron, I thank you so much for coming on today. You were absolutely wonderful with your theater stories.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to talk to you. It was lovely to talk to you.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you so much. And
okay.
Stay safe and have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Sharron Shayne. Ain't she a sweetheart? Nice lady. Passionate lady. I enjoyed her a great deal. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes. Day-o.